Getting back to week one, though, Calvert defeated Macomb 17-14, and the young man from Tiffin that won the award really was game one of what was just a phenomenal year. 7.8 yards per carry, 110 yards rushing a game, 1,300 yards for the season. He threw for almost another 1,000, had 3 touchdown passes, 17 total touchdowns. And from Tiffin Calvert, the player that stood out the most week one was Nate Rissler. Nate Rissler couldn't be here tonight, but we'll send him his award if anyone knows of someone that can take it back with them, or we'll ship it. But the second player that won was a reliable player, stepped up this season as a lot of players had to for Macomb. We all know the success Macomb had last year, offensively, defensively, as a team, and they needed new guys to step up and obviously become leaders of the team because D left and all the receivers left. And this young man had over 1,100 yards on the ground, nearly 10 yards per carry, over 30 touchdowns on the season. He scored 200 points. That would be Jerry Brown. Jerry, no, that couldn't make it. Typically, I think he is actually getting ready for the basketball season. But moving on to players that we know are here. We're going to go to week 2. Liberty Benton won 48-14. It was odd if you were at that game because the score clock malfunctioned, as it seemed to do every week at Liberty Benton for the first few. But the young man that won the award that night had 3 touchdowns on the season. Maybe not the most impressive stats for a year, but in that game, he had 2 touchdowns that turned around that contest for the Eagles. They came at 79 yards and 18 yards. Both came in the second quarter, minutes within each other. And he was a guy that we were watching all game long. When he caught the ball, he was gone. And he got into the end zone twice to really pick his team up. That would be Chase Cook. Now in that game, they defeated Arlington, and 48-14 doesn't look good on the scoreboard, doesn't look good in the paper the next day, or what you hear on the radio or read on the internet. And Arlington's defense was ranked 4th in the BBC. They allowed 234 yards per game. And this is a young man we saw that I thought had a lot of upside. The gentleman I did the game with, by the way, is Tony England, for those Liberty Benton that know him. He could not make it tonight because of parent-teacher conferences, but he was impressed by this young man for the Red Devils, so he's excited to see and hopefully see a few more times over the next few years. The award winner for Arlington in week 2 was Chase Cook. Week 3 saw another Liberty Benton game, and another Liberty Benton win. 43-20 would be the final. And there was a young man on that team that I was very hard on this year, and that was Mitch Linhart. And the reason was because I played the position in high school. I saw some things he was doing good. I saw some things he was doing bad. The great thing he did in the first half of the season was he was protecting the football. He threw for over 21 touchdowns. I don't think I got that in 4 years in high school. He did it in this season. He passed for over 1,600 yards, but it wasn't just his throwing, it was his ability to run, to move, to be elusive is what you need as a quarterback in Northwest Ohio. 400 yards on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns as well, and he really was the backbone of that Liberty Benton team in week 3. He was the award winner for week 3 as well, Mitch Linhart. In that game, Liberty Benton defeated Macomb, and much like Jerry Brown, who I talked about moments ago, another young man in the backfield had to step up, because you can't go through a high school football season in Northwest Ohio with just one running back. You got to have a pair of them. You got to have a couple nice tight ends to block. You got to have a quarterback like Mitch that can take a pounding. And Cody Wilson from Macomb really stepped up. 6.5 yards on the season, 10 rushing touchdowns. He was the award winner for Macomb in week 3. Like Jerry Brown, he was unable to make it. Now, week 4 is interesting for me because as I look over to my left, see that young man right there smiling. He had to call the game because unfortunately I had to take care of something else in Toledo that evening. So this was a game that I really didn't have a lot of background on. So I took a look at the players themselves. I look at the game and I see Kerry wins 55-14. And Brandon Ditzel in that game was the MVP for Kerry. And since I didn't get to see the game, I had to go back and look at what he did. He was a ball hawk. He was first team MAL. He was a special team standout. In that game alone, 2 interceptions, touchdown, 69-yard punt return. On the season, 18.2 yards per punt return, 2 touchdowns, led the MAL interceptions with 6, and anyone that's played the game knows it takes someone special and crazy to play special teams, especially at punt return. So congratulations to Brandon. In that game, Carry 1, they took on Fremont St. Joe, and the award winner there led the MAL in receiving at 808 yards, had a number of touchdowns, was second in the MAL with receptions, and the award winner from Fremont for that week, and I hope I say his last name right, is Jordan Sessler, or Sessler. Sessler. Week 5, we went back and did another Liberty Bend game, and Liberty Bend again won 41-14. What was very odd about this game, and whoever here from Liberty Bend can help me, you guys ran into the punter not once, not 4 times you guys ran into the punter, but you still won 41-14. And the MVP was a young man who I wish I got to play with in high school. He was a big receiver. He was an excellent defender. He was fearless, great speed throughout the season, 15 touchdowns, 22 yards per catch. And this game, from what I saw, possibly could have been the best one he had in his career. A 68-yard touchdown, a 61-yard touchdown. He ran a 40-yard touchdown, and he finished the game with 172 yards receiving. The winner from Liberty Bend in Week 5 was Dakota Conley. For Corey Rawson, their young man who won the MVP that night, had 11 total touchdowns, 5 on the ground, 6 receiving, was a workhorse, second most carries in the BBC this past season, a running back with 163. They had a tough time running that night against Liberty Bend. For Corey Rawson, it was Tyler Harris. Week 6 is when we got into I don't want to call it a scheduling conflict, but if you open your football guides, you'll see there's an asterisk next to games. It's because we want to put out the best game that we can. And in Week 6, Shannon Miller, Josh Holman, they decided that they wanted to put Liberty Bend against Arcade. Both teams at that time were undefeated, obviously a huge game in Northwest Ohio. It was undefeated teams. It was fun for me to watch. Liberty Bend again came out on top 34-14. For Liberty Bend that night, they had a tough runner who could go inside, he could go outside, he was quick, he was powerful, 17 touchdowns. Led that rushing attack for Liberty Bend, which has a team at over 2,700 yards on the ground. And he set the tone of this game, with an 80-yard touchdown run in the opening quarter. He finished that game with just 13 carries, but over 175 yards. The winner that night was Liberty Bend running back Brady Ball. That night, my heart went out to a young man in Arcadia who played quarterback that night, and he really got lit up a number of times. His jersey was just covered in grass stains and mud, but he led an offense that averaged over 320 yards per game. He taught 16 touchdown passes on the season, and this was a tough game, and for that, he got a lot of credit for myself and Tony Inkman at the Arcadia quarterback, Casey Palmer. In Week 7, Tony and I, we got out of the BBC for a moment and went to Downtown Stadium. And for us, we like to do Findlay games in Downtown because it's easy for both of us to drive to, and we can get back and go do what we want to do on a Friday night. I think everyone can agree to that. Well, Findlay that night lost to Whitmer 49-23. What's interesting in that game is midway through the third quarter, Findlay's only down a possession. But yeah, Whitmer, so powerful, was able to blow the door open a little bit, but it was a fun game to watch. In that game, there was a young man that I got to watch who made big catches at crucial points. He may not have had the numbers, 5 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown, but he was a great receiver. He was crucial in some big plays. The touchdown he had really cut back into that lead for Findlay, and that would be Dylan Blunt. As we continue to get to the end of the season, we obviously wanted to keep the best games we possibly could going. And in Week 8, we had a matchup between Hopeful Loudon and Cary. Now, if you go back a year ago, I wasn't doing this game. I was on WFOB, our sister station, and it was a 68-14 Cary win. But in high school sports, Northwest Ohio, anything can happen. And this year, Hopeful Loudon defeated Cary 29-15. In that game, there was a quarterback for Hopeful Loudon who led the MAL with 20 touchdown passes, had over 1,700 yards passing, rushed for over 700 yards as well, threw a very nice ball, was very smart, moved around the field well, was a decision maker, was a leader, and he protected the football. And in a game that was so important in Week 8, he had the clinching touchdown for the Chieftains. That would be Tyler Tyree. Now in that big game, Carey fell, but they had a running back that was someone who jumped off the map to us. Over 700 yards rushing on the year, 6 yards per carry. Had some nice runs in that game and really carried the Devils because at 29-15, he cut the lead to 21-15 after he scored a 56-yard third-quarter touchdown and had a 2-point conversion. That young man for the Blue Devils is Austin Tashan. In week 9, it was a game that kind of caught me by surprise. Liberty Benton and Lipsick, and Lipsick defeated Liberty Benton in that game 27-0. Obviously, Tony was a little shell-shocked being from Liberty Benton. He didn't want to say anything. He didn't want to go off, I should say, on air with his true feelings. But for those that are Liberty Benton, you can ask him how he felt at school. For Liberty Benton, though, they had a young man who played the game the way football is supposed to be played. He was hard-nosed. He was their fullback. He was their middle linebacker. He had a nose for the football. He was always around the field. He anchored that Liberty Benton defense, which was best in the BBC. As a team, Liberty Benton allowed under 200 yards of total offense to their opponent per game. And for the season, if you take everybody they faced and add it up, they didn't give up 800 yards rushing. And that was because of this young man, Jed Dillon. They took on that Lipsick team that won 27-0, and I caught a lot of slack during the year when we were doing Lipsick games because I've come to find that in Northwest Ohio there's a lot of Schraders, there's a lot of Schroders. So Travis Schrader or Travis Schroeder was the winner for Lipsick in week 9. He played in just 7 games and had 13 touchdowns. He had over 6 yards a touch. Personally, was the toughest player that I got to see play all season long, and I had the opportunity to watch him this past weekend in the playoff game. He was beat up a lot this season, but he always left it on the field, and he was the award winner for the Dixie All-Play MVP in week number 9.